The crystalline spires of the Archean command ship glittered against the backdrop of deep space, each facet refracting starlight in hypnotic patterns. Supreme Commander Zixtal stood motionless, their crystalline form pulsing with deep blue energy as they processed the latest scan data from the small blue planet ahead. Earth, another resource-rich world to add to their ever-expanding empire. Preliminary scans complete, Supreme Commander, reported Analysis Officer Crystal, their voice resonating like wind through crystal chimes. The planet shows significant technological advancement, but nothing approaching our level. They've barely reached their moon. Zixtal's form flickered with amber light, their species equivalent of contemplation. The Archeans had conquered dozens of worlds across the galaxy, their methodical approach never failing. Each civilization they encountered fell into neat, predictable patterns, but something about these humans troubled them. Their development curve is unusual, Crystal continued, projecting a holographic chart. In the last century, they've advanced more rapidly than any species we've encountered, and there are energy signatures we can't quite explain. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her hand steady despite the weight of her presentation. The massive underground chamber in Geneva hummed with tension as she displayed the latest deep space readings. The Archean fleet isn't here for peaceful first contact, she declared, her voice cutting through the murmurs of the assembled leaders. Their scan patterns match exactly what we've observed from recovered alien tech. They're looking for strategic weaknesses. General Marcus Rodriguez, the grizzled veteran who headed Earth's unified military command, leaned forward. How long do we have? Based on their current position, 3 days before they're in strike range. But they don't know about Project Prometheus. The chamber fell silent. For 50 years, humanity had been preparing in secret. Every piece of alien technology that crashed on Earth, every mysterious signal intercepted, had been studied and reverse-engineered. While the world watched cat videos and argued about celebrity gossip, underground facilities across the globe had been developing defenses against the very scenario they now faced. Back on the Archean command ship, Zixtal received a curious report. Their initial diplomatic transmission, standard procedure before any conquest, had been answered with a simple message. We know what you are. We know why you're here. Leave now. The Supreme Commander's crystalline form pulsed with amusement. Such bravado from a primitive species was not uncommon. They had encountered similar responses before, always followed by quick surrender once their true power was demonstrated. Prepare the first wave, Zixtal commanded. Standard conquest protocol. But on Earth, humanity was far from helpless. In hidden bases beneath the Rockies, the Himalayas, and the Australian outback, massive quantum shield generators powered up. Orbital platforms disguised as communications satellites repositioned themselves, and in a facility deep under the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Chen initiated the final sequence for Project Prometheus. All stations report ready, she announced to General Rodriguez. The Archeans think they're dealing with a primitive species that barely understands quantum mechanics. They don't realize we've had their technology for decades, and we improved it. The general nodded grimly. They expect us to run, to beg for mercy when they demonstrate their power. A small smile crossed his weathered face. Let's show them why that's a mistake. As the first Archean ships entered the outer reaches of Earth's solar system, they maintained perfect formation, their crystalline hulls gleaming with confidence. Supreme Commander Zixtal prepared to deliver their standard ultimatum, expecting the usual response: fear, panic, desperate negotiations. Instead, their sensors detected something impossible: quantum fluctuations that shouldn't exist in a civilization at Earth's supposed level of development. Before they could process this anomaly, hundreds of previously invisible defense platforms revealed themselves, their positions forming an intricate web around the planet. Zixtal's form pulsed with the first hints of uncertainty. This was not proceeding according to their carefully calculated plans. These humans were not following the expected pattern of a primitive species facing superior technology. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology. It was in their ability to adapt, to prepare, to survive. The Arxians had come expecting to find easy prey. Instead, they had stumbled upon a species that had spent generations preparing for this very moment. The real question wasn't whether humanity would run. It was whether the Arxians would be wise enough to do so first. Supreme Commander Zixtal's crystalline form pulsed with rapid bursts of red energy, their species' equivalent of alarm. As the sensor readings defied all expectations, across Earth's orbit, hundreds of quantum-enhanced defense platforms had just revealed themselves, each utilizing technology that should have been centuries beyond human capability. Impossible, Analysis Officer Crystal whispered, their crystalline structure vibrating with confusion. Their energy signatures, they're using modified versions of our own quantum matrices, but the configurations are unlike anything in our database. Before the Arxian fleet could adjust their formation, the first wave of Earth's defense struck. Concentrated beams of quantum-disrupted energy sliced through space, not targeting the Arxian ships directly, but instead creating a complex web of intersecting fields that began to interfere with the crystalline vessel's natural resonance. In the underwater command center, Dr. Chen watched the tactical display with fierce satisfaction. The crystalline interference grid is working exactly as we predicted, she reported to General Rodriguez. 50 years of studying that crashed Arxian scout ship in the Mariana Trench is paying off. The general nodded, his eyes fixed on the holographic battle display. Launch Operation Shattered Mirror. Across Earth's surface, massive hidden hangar doors lit open in remote deserts, mountains, and beneath the oceans. What emerged wasn't the primitive aircraft the Arxians had expected. Instead, sleek vessels rose into the sky, their hulls incorporating reverse-engineered alien technology merged with human innovation. Commander Aisha Khan led the first squadron of Earth's hybrid fighters into orbit. Her vessel, like all the others, utilized principles learned from decades of studying alien technology. But where the Arxians relied on pure crystalline structures, humanity had created something new. Adaptive quantum organic composites that could change properties on the fly. Remember your training, she broadcast to her squadron. Their crystalline tech is predictable. Use the chaos patterns we developed. They've never faced an enemy that could think like us. The space around Earth erupted into a ballet of light and energy as human fighters engaged the Arxian fleet. The crystalline ships were more powerful, more advanced, but they were fighting an enemy that had spent generations preparing specifically for them, studying their weaknesses, and developing countermeasures they never could have anticipated. On the Arxian command ship, Zixtal watched in growing disbelief as their carefully orchestrated attack dissolved into chaos. How are they doing this? They demanded, their form now pulsing with rapid shifts between red and amber. Their ships are adapting to our attacks. Supreme Commander, Crystal reported urgently, we're detecting quantum signatures similar to the Helix artifact we lost in this sector 3 centuries ago. Somehow, they've not only found it, they've understood it and improved upon it. The truth began to dawn on the Arxian commander. This wasn't just about the technology. While the Arxians had spent centuries perfecting their crystalline technology along rigid, predictable paths, humanity had taken their salvaged alien tech and done something unprecedented. They'd mixed it with their own innovations, created hybrid systems that operated in ways the original designers never imagined. In the Pacific Command Center, Dr. Chen activated the next phase of Earth's defense. Quantum resonance disruptors online, she announced, targeting their command and control networks. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Arxian fleet's perfectly coordinated movements began to falter as their crystalline communication networks encountered interference patterns they had never been programmed to handle. Human ingenuity had turned the very predictability of Arxian technology against them. They're falling back, Commander Khan reported from her fighter, watching as the crystalline ships began to retreat from Earth's orbit. Their formation is breaking down. But Zixtal wasn't ready to admit defeat. In a desperate move, They ordered their remaining ships to concentrate fire on a single point in Earth's defense network. If we can break through their lines, we can still. The Supreme Commander's orders were cut short as new signals appeared on their tactical display. From behind Earth's moon emerged another fleet of human vessels, their hybrid designs incorporating technology from not just Archean sources, but other alien civilizations as well. Dr. Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Funny thing about being the backwater planet that everyone underestimates," she said to General Rodriguez. "Everyone's been careless about what they've left behind here over the centuries. And we've been very, very patient about putting all those pieces together." The Archean fleet, for the first time in their long history of conquest, found themselves facing an enemy that had turned their own technological superiority into a weakness. Humanity hadn't just prepared for this battle. They had spent generations preparing for any battle, learning from every piece of alien technology they could find, and creating something entirely new in the process. As the second wave of Earth's defense forces engaged, it became clear that this would not be the quick conquest the Archeans had planned. They had come expecting to find primitives. Instead, they had found a species that had turned their own arrogance against them, using their assumptions of superiority as a shield behind which they had prepared for this very day. In the chaotic space above Earth, the crystalline forms of the Archean ships began to adapt, their surfaces refracting light in new patterns as they attempted to counter humanity's unexpected defenses. Supreme Commander Zixtal had abandoned their usual methodical approach, now implementing emergency protocols never before needed in their centuries of conquest. They found a way to adapt. Dr. Chen observed from the Pacific Command Center, her eyes narrowing at the tactical displays, just as we predicted they would. Time for Phase 3. She turned to General Rodriguez. "Sir, permission to initiate Operation Pandora." The general's weathered face showed grim satisfaction. "Granted. Let's show them why humanity's greatest weapon has always been our unpredictability." Across Earth's defense network, a new strategy unfolded. Instead of maintaining their organized defense grid, Earth's forces began to fragment into smaller, seemingly chaotic groups. To the highly organized Archean fleet, it appeared as if their superior technology had finally broken human resistance. Commander Khan led her squadron in what appeared to be a desperate retreat. Initiating scatter protocol, she broadcasted to her pilots. "Remember your training. Make it look good." The Archean fleet pressed their perceived advantage, their crystalline ships pursuing the scattered human forces. Supreme Commander Zixtal's form pulsed with satisfaction. At last, they break. Standard pursuit formation. Their primitive tactics cannot. The commander's words cut off as their tactical display exploded with new data. The retreating human ships hadn't been running away. They had been drawing the Archean fleet into position. Each scattered group of fighters suddenly released clouds of what appeared to be simple metallic dust. Supreme Commander, Crystal's crystalline form vibrated with alarm. The particles, their quantum-entangled metamaterials. Before the Archeans could react, Dr. Chen activated the trap. Every particle of the released metamaterial dust became a node in a vast quantum network, creating a three-dimensional web of interference patterns that played havoc with the Archean ship's crystalline structures. In the midst of the chaos, Commander Khan's voice came over the tactical network. "Time to show them why humans write stories about David versus Goliath. All units, execute Slingshot Protocol." Earth's fighters began maneuvers that defied conventional space combat logic. They flew into their own metamaterial clouds, their hybrid hulls designed to resonate with the quantum interference patterns. What looked like suicide runs became impossible turns and accelerations as the human pilots used the quantum turbulence like surfers riding waves. From their command ship, the Archeans watched in growing horror as their perfectly ordered fleet was forced into chaos. Their crystalline technology, refined over centuries for maximum efficiency, was now working against them. The quantum interference created cascading resonance patterns that threatened to shatter their ship's structural integrity. "Impossible." Zixtal's form flickered with rapid color changes. Their tactics, they're using our own harmonics against us. But the calculations required to predict these patterns would take. They didn't calculate them, Crystal realized, their voice carrying a new tone, something close to awe. They're improvising, adapting in real time. Each pilot is making independent decisions, creating chaos our systems can't predict. In the underwater command center, Dr. Chen watched the battle unfold with fierce pride. This is why we spent so much time studying their psychology, she explained to General Rodriguez. The Arxians think in crystalline patterns, structured, logical, predictable. We knew they'd never expect an enemy to embrace chaos as a strategy. The space battle had transformed into something unprecedented. Human fighters danced through quantum interference patterns like schools of fish navigating coral reefs, while the larger Arxian ships struggled to maintain their structural integrity in the turbulent space their own technology had helped create. Commander Khan's voice crackled through the command center. Multiple crystalline fracture patterns detected in their capital ships. The metamaterial interference is working better than we hoped. Permission to initiate Phase 3B. Granted, General Rodriguez answered, watching as the tactical display showed more Arxian ships withdrawing from the quantum storm. Show them the full capabilities of Operation Pandora. The human fighters began to move in new patterns, their movements synchronized in ways that seemed to defy physics. The metamaterial clouds coalesced into shifting geometric forms, creating zones where space itself seemed to ripple and distort. What we learned from studying their technology, Dr. Chen said softly, wasn't just about their capabilities. It was about their limitations. They built their entire civilization on principles of perfect order and predictability. They never stopped to consider that chaos itself could be a weapon. As the battle reached its crescendo, the Arxian fleet faced a choice they had never encountered in their long history of conquest: adapt to humanity's chaos or retreat. Their crystalline ships, designed for perfect harmony, were being shattered by the very disorder they had always sought to eliminate from the galaxy. In the command center, General Rodriguez watched the Arxian ships beginning to withdraw. They're learning, he observed, that sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the biggest weapons. It's the one, Dr. Chen finished, who knows how to turn your greatest strength into your greatest weakness. Supreme Commander Zixtal's crystalline form had lost its usual pristine geometric patterns, now showing countless microfractures from the stress of sustained combat. The command center of their flagship resembled a shattered mirror, with crew members' forms displaying similar signs of strain. Their perfect order, maintained across centuries of successful conquests, had been broken by human unpredictability. Status report, Zixtal demanded, their voice resonating with unusual harmonics. Analysis Officer Crystal's response came with hesitation. We've lost 30% of our fleet to their quantum interference tactics. Another 25% are showing critical structural stress. But that's not the worst of it, Supreme Commander. On their main display, a new pattern emerged. The humans weren't just defending anymore. They were beginning to push outward, their hybrid ships moving with increasing confidence through the quantum storms they had created. In Earth's Pacific Command Center, Dr. Chen studied the latest data with growing excitement. General Rodriguez, Project Prometheus is ready for full deployment. The Arxians' defensive patterns have given us everything we need. The general raised an eyebrow. Everything. Their crystalline technology operates on fundamental harmonics, like a vast musical instrument playing a single perfect note. We've been recording that note, analyzing it. And now, she smiled. Now we know how to change the melody. Commander Khan's voice crackled through the command network. All fighters, prepare for Prometheus protocol. Synchronize quantum resonance fields on my mark. Across the battlefield, Earth's forces began to move in new patterns. The metamaterial clouds they had deployed earlier started to pulse with strange energies, creating interference patterns that seemed to bend the very fabric of space. On the Arxian flagship, Crystal's form suddenly flared with alarm. Supreme Commander. They're rewriting our base quantum frequencies. For the first time in their long existence, Zixtal felt something akin to fear. The humans hadn't just learned to counter Arxian technology. They had learned to fundamentally alter it. Each pulse from the human fleet sent cascading changes through the crystalline structures of the Arxian ships, forcing them to resonate at new frequencies. Dr. Chen's voice carried across all frequencies, broadcasting directly to the Arxian command ship. Your technology is beautiful, Commander Zixtal. Perfect crystalline structures, maintaining harmony across vast distances. But that's also its weakness. When everything is connected in perfect harmony, changing one note changes the entire symphony. The space around Earth had become a quantum orchestra, with humanity conducting a piece that the Arxians had never imagined possible. Their ships, designed to maintain perfect structural harmony, found themselves forced to adapt to new resonances or risk shattering completely. Commander Khan led her squadron through the chaos, their hybrid ships now moving with impossible grace. Look at their formation, she commented to her pilots. They're trying to maintain order even now. They still don't understand. In the command center, General Rodriguez watched as the tactical situation shifted dramatically in Earth's favor. They never considered that their technology could be used this way, did they? How could they? Dr. Chen replied, her fingers dancing across control surfaces as she fine-tuned the Prometheus protocol. Their entire civilization is built on maintaining perfect order. The idea of using chaos as a tool, of deliberately introducing discord to create something new, it's completely alien to them. Aboard the Arxian flagship, Supreme Commander Zixtal was faced with a decision that no member of their species had ever had to make. Their perfectly ordered conquest had transformed into something unprecedented, a battle where superior technology had become a liability. Supreme Commander, Crystal reported, their form barely maintaining coherence. The humans are expanding their quantum interference field. At current projections, we have less than 10 minutes before total fleet resonance collapse. Zixtal's form pulsed with rapid color changes as they processed this information. The humans had not only defended their world, they had fundamentally changed the rules of engagement. Their ability to adapt, to take established principles, and transform them into something new, had turned what should have been an easy conquest into a devastating defeat. Dr. Chen watched as the Arxian fleet began a rapid withdrawal, their once perfect formation now broken and chaotic. They're running, she announced, but her voice carried no mockery, only a sort of wondering respect. They finally understand. Understand what? General Rodriguez asked, though the slight smile suggested he already knew the answer. That true strength isn't in having the most advanced technology, she replied, watching the retreat. It's in knowing how to use what you have in ways nobody else has imagined. The Arxians perfected their technology over centuries, but they never evolved beyond their original thinking. We took their perfection and showed them that imperfection, chaos, adaptation, evolution, these are the real sources of power. 3 days after the battle, the quantum storms had finally settled. Earth's orbital defense platforms maintained their vigilant watch, but their weapons were powered down. In the vast conference chamber beneath Geneva, Dr. Chen stood before a holographic projection of Supreme Commander Zixtal, whose crystalline form still showed signs of the recent conflict. Your message was unexpected. Zixtal's voice resonated through the chamber. The commander's form pulsed with subtle colors that the human scientists were only beginning to understand. Uncertainty, curiosity, and something else, something new. We thought it was time for a real conversation, Dr. Chen replied, her voice firm but not unkind, one without pretense or assumptions on either side. The Arxian leader's form shifted, refracting light in complex patterns. You could have destroyed our entire fleet. The Prometheus protocol, it could have shattered every crystalline ship in our armada. Yet you chose not to. General Rodriguez stepped forward, standing beside Dr. Chen. Because that's not who we are. We defend, we adapt, we survive, but we don't destroy when there's a better option. In orbit, Commander Khan's fighters escorted a single Arxian diplomatic vessel through Earth's defense grid. Inside the crystalline ship, Analysis Officer Crystal studied the human vessels with new understanding. The hybrid ships that had seemed so crude days ago now revealed layers of innovation they had never imagined possible. Back in the conference chamber, Dr. Chen activated a display showing the complex quantum harmonics that Earth's scientists had decoded. "Your technology is remarkable," she said to Zixtal. "Perfect crystalline structures maintaining harmony across vast distances. We spent decades studying it, learning from it. But we also saw its limitations. Limitations we never considered," Zixtal acknowledged, their form pulsing with a new rhythm. "You didn't just adapt our technology. You transformed it into something entirely new." The display shifted, showing how humanity had merged crystalline technology with their own innovations. Where the Arxians sought perfect order, humans had introduced controlled chaos. Where Arxian ships maintained rigid harmony, human vessels could shift and adapt their quantum resonance patterns at will. "Your species," Crystal's voice joined the conversation from their approaching vessel. "You take disparate pieces and create new possibilities. You find strength in imperfection, potential in disorder. It is fascinating." Dr. Chen smiled. "That's what makes us human. We're not bound by the need for perfection. We learn, we adapt, we combine different ideas into something new. Sometimes we fail spectacularly, but sometimes you achieve the impossible," Zixtal finished. Their form had stabilized into a new configuration, one that showed none of their species' usual rigid geometry. "We have existed for millennia, spreading across the galaxy, seeking to impose our order on all we encountered. Never once did we consider that disorder itself could be a source of strength." The diplomatic vessel docked at the Geneva facility, and soon Crystal joined the conference in person. Their crystalline form cast rainbow patterns across the chamber as they moved. "We request," they said carefully, "an exchange. Not of weapons or territory, but of ideas. We have much to learn from each other." General Rodriguez exchanged glances with Dr. Chen before responding. "That was our hope. Your understanding of quantum harmonics, combined with our ability to adapt and innovate. Imagine what we could achieve together." "A synthesis," Zixtal mused, their form showing new patterns never before seen in their species. "Order and chaos, perfection and adaptation, certainty and possibility. Perhaps this is what we have been seeking all along without knowing it." Commander Khan, who had joined the conference after escorting the diplomatic vessel, spoke up. "During the battle, we learned to read your quantum harmonics, to understand the music of your technology. But there's so much more to learn, isn't there?" "Yes," Crystal answered, their form resonating with excitement. "Already, we see patterns in your hybrid technology that we never imagined possible. You have shown us that true advancement comes not from perfecting what is known, but from daring to explore what might be." Dr. Chen stepped forward, addressing both human and Arxian leaders. "This is humanity's real strength. Not our weapons, not our technology, but our ability to learn, to change, to see potential in the impossible. We turned your invasion into an opportunity for understanding. And in doing so," Zixtal concluded, their form now pulsing with harmonics that matched the hybrid technology around them, "you have changed not only yourselves, but us as well. Perhaps this is the true conquest, not of territory or resources, but of limitations, of the boundaries we place upon ourselves." As the sun set over Geneva, human and Arxian representatives began the work of forging a new future. The quantum storms that had raged in battle had cleared, leaving behind something unexpected. A bridge between two fundamentally different ways of viewing the universe. In their attempt to conquer Earth, the Arxians had instead discovered something far more valuable: the power of transformation, of evolution, of finding strength in the very chaos they had spent millennia trying to eliminate. The stars above Earth shone down on a planet that had not just survived an alien invasion, but had turned it into an opportunity for growth. Humanity had proven that their greatest weapon was not their technology or their defenses, but their endless capacity to adapt, to imagine, and to transform the impossible into reality.